My father-in-law cornered me at Thanksgiving. Natasha, for everyone's protection, you should add our names to your deed. I bought that house with my own money before I even met their son, but they'd been pressuring me for months. Their faces went white when the realtor pulled up the property records. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe, like, and share this story, because what happens next will leave you absolutely stunned. It's just common sense, Natasha. My mother-in-law, Diane, set down her wine glass with that delicate clink that somehow always sounded like a threat. What if something happens to you? Brandon would be left with nothing. I looked across the Thanksgiving table at my husband, Brandon, who was suddenly very interested in his mashed potatoes. We were sitting in their dining room, the one with the crystal chandelier and the imported Italian furniture, surrounded by his entire family. His parents, his sister, Ashley, and her husband, his brother, Kevin, and his pregnant wife. All of them nodding along like Diane had just suggested we say grace. Something like what? I asked carefully. Well, God forbid an accident. An illness. Diane dabbed her lips with a monogram napkin. You just never know. And since you don't have children yet, Brandon should be protected. We all should be. We're family now. We're family now. The words she'd been using like a weapon ever since Brandon and I got married 8 months ago. The house is in Natasha's name, Brandon said quietly, finally looking up. That's how it should be. She bought it. Before she met you, his father, Robert, cut in. Things are different now. You're married. Assets should be shared. Protected. Protected, I repeated. Protected from what, exactly? Ashley leaned forward, her voice syrupy with false concern. We're just thinking about Brandon's future. Your house is beautiful, Natasha. It's probably worth, what, $400,000? Maybe more? If something happened to you, and Brandon wasn't on the deed, he could lose everything. Unless he's in my will, which he is. Wills can be contested, Robert said firmly. Deeds are ironclad. This is just smart planning. Smart planning. They've been calling it that for 3 months now. Ever since they found out I own my 3-bedroom Craftsman in Portland outright. No mortgage. No co-signers. Just me and a decade of saving every penny from my software engineering job. I'd bought it 5 years ago, before I'd even met Brandon at a mutual friend's wedding. Before I'd fallen in love with his easy smile and kind eyes. Before I'd realized his family saw me as an asset to acquire. I'll think about it, I said, the same thing I'd been saying for months. There's nothing to think about, Diane pressed. You add Brandon and us as secondary holders. It's a safety net. That's all. Why would I add you? The question came out sharper than I intended. The table went silent. Robert's jaw tightened. Kevin stopped mid-bite. Even Brandon looked uncomfortable. Because, Diane said slowly, as if explaining to a child, we're Brandon's parents. If something happened to both of you, someone needs to be able to handle the estate. Do you have siblings? Parents. My parents died when I was 19. Exactly. She said it like she'd won an argument. So who would handle things? Some distant cousin? The state? We're your family now. This protects everyone. I set down my fork. Let me get this straight. You want me to add your names to my house deed, the house I bought with my own money, just in case Brandon and I both die simultaneously. It's not about dying, Robert said impatiently. It's about smart asset protection. And if we get divorced? The table went completely still. Brandon's head snapped up. Natasha, I'm just asking. If Brandon and I get divorced, and your names are on my deed, what happens then? Why would you even bring that up? Ashley said, her voice sharp. Do you not trust our brother? I trust Brandon completely. I'm asking about the legal implications of putting your names on my property. This is insulting, Kevin muttered. What's insulting? I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Is being ambushed at Thanksgiving dinner about signing over partial ownership of my home. No one's asking you to sign anything over, Diane said, but her eyes had gone cold. We're asking you to be smart. To protect our son. Unless you have something to hide. There it was. The accusation wrapped in concern. Brandon finally spoke up. Mom, Dad, can we just drop this? It's Natasha's house. She can do what she wants with it. You're too soft on her, Robert said. Marriage is a partnership. She should want to protect you. I do protect him. I love him. That doesn't mean I have to put your names on my deed. Diane's smile was ice. Well, I suppose we know where we stand then. The rest of dinner was excruciating. Polite conversation laced with passive-aggressive comments. Ashley asking loudly if I was always this difficult about family matters. Kevin joking that I must be planning my exit strategy. Diane serving me dessert with a tight smile that made it clear I was no longer welcome. On the drive home, Brandon was silent for 20 minutes before finally speaking. You could have handled that better. I stared at him. Excuse me? They're just worried about me. About us. You made it sound like they were trying to steal from you. They want their names on my house deed, Brandon. How is that not trying to take something from me? They're trying to protect our future. Our future? Or their investment? He pulled into our driveway, the driveway to my house, and put the car in park. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm starting to think this isn't about protection at all. Then what is it about? I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I'd married. The man whose family had been circling my assets like sharks since the day we got engaged. I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. The next morning, I called my realtor, Patricia Martinez. I'd worked with her when I bought the house, and we'd stayed in touch. She was sharp, no nonsense, and knew the Portland real estate market inside and out. Natasha, how's married life? Complicated. I need your help with something. I explained the situation. The pressure from Brandon's family. The constant requests to add them to my deed. The way they'd been pushing harder and harder. Patricia was quiet for a moment. You said they specifically want to be added as secondary holders? That's what they keep calling it. Is that even a real thing? In a way. They probably mean as joint tenants or tenants in common. But Natasha, I need to tell you something. Adding anyone to your deed means they have ownership rights. If you added Brandon's parents, they could potentially force a sale of your house even against your wishes. My stomach dropped. What? Any owner can petition for partition. That means if they wanted to cash out their portion, they could force you to sell your house or buy them out at market value. But they'd only have a small percentage. Doesn't matter. Any owner can force partition. And here's the thing, if you got divorced, their ownership wouldn't necessarily go away. You could end up divorced from Brandon, but still legally tied to his parents through your house. I felt sick. There's something else, Patricia continued. You said they've been really pushy about this for months? Yes. Can you do me a favor? Can you find out if they've recently had any financial troubles? Lost a business? Filed bankruptcy? Anything like that. Why? Because in my experience, when people suddenly become obsessed with getting their names on someone else's property, it's usually because they need an asset they can leverage. I've seen it before. Parents pressure their kids to add them to house deeds, then take out loans or lines of credit against the property. They can do that. If they're on the deed, yes. The property becomes collateral they can use. I thought about Robert's new truck. Diane's recent spa trips to Scottsdale. The way Ashley had mentioned their parents helping her with her wedding costs. Can you look something up for me? I asked. Is there a way to check if someone has liens or judgments against them? I can run a basic property and financial check. Give me their names. I gave her Robert and Diane Foster's information. Patricia said she'd call me back within a few hours. I spent those hours thinking about the past 8 months. How Brandon's family had been so welcoming at first. How Diane had taken me shopping, invited me to spa days, treated me like the daughter she'd never had. When had it shifted? When had I gone from daughter-in-law to asset? Patricia called back 3 hours later. Natasha, you need to sit down. I sat. Robert and Diane Foster filed for bankruptcy 2 years ago. It was discharged, but they lost almost everything. Their house is underwater. They owe more than it's worth. Robert had a business that failed, left them with over $300,000 in debt. My hands went cold. That's not all. Ashley Foster and her husband are being foreclosed on. They're about to lose their condo. And Kevin Foster? He's got 2 judgments against him for unpaid credit cards totaling $50,000. Oh my God. Natasha, this family is drowning in debt. And your house is the only asset in reach that's actually worth something. If they can get their names on your deed, they can use your property as collateral for loans. They can refinance against it. In a worst-case scenario, their creditors could put liens on your house. I couldn't breathe. You need to protect yourself. Legally. Immediately. How? First, don't add anyone to that deed. Second, I think you should meet with them and a realtor, me, and let me explain exactly what they're asking for. Sometimes people back off when they realize someone else knows what they're really doing. Brandon doesn't know about any of this, I said quietly. Are you sure? That was the question that haunted me for the next 3 days. I told Brandon we needed to have a family meeting about the house. He was relieved, thinking I'd changed my mind. I didn't correct him. We met at my house on Saturday afternoon. Robert, Diane, Ashley, Kevin, Brandon, Patricia, and me. I'd told them Patricia was coming to help us understand the paperwork. They thought they'd won. Diane even brought champagne. We sat in my living room, the room I'd painted myself, where I'd hosted game nights and birthday parties. Patricia had her laptop open. So, Robert began, rubbing his hands together. Let's make this official. Natasha's finally being reasonable. Actually, I said, Patricia's here to help everyone understand exactly what adding names to a deed means. Diane's smile faltered slightly. Patricia turned her laptop around. I pulled up the property records for this house. As you can see, Natasha Foster, formerly Natasha Brooks, is the sole owner. She purchased this property for $370,000 5 years ago and paid it off in full 3 years later. We know all that, Kevin said impatiently. What you might not know, Patricia continued, her voice professional but firm, is what happens when additional names are added to a deed. Any co-owner can force a partition sale, meaning they can force Natasha to sell her house even if she doesn't want to. Any co-owner can take out loans or lines of credit using the house as collateral. And any co-owner's creditors can place liens on the property. The room went very quiet. That's why, Patricia said, looking directly at Robert, I have to ask, do any of you currently have outstanding debts or judgments that might make this property vulnerable? Robert's face turned red. That's none of your business. Actually, it is, because Natasha hired me to run a basic financial check before agreeing to add anyone to her deed. You did what? Diane's voice was sharp. Patricia pulled up another screen. Robert and Diane Foster. Bankruptcy filed and discharged 2 years ago. Current home equity negative $30,000. Ashley Foster. Foreclosure proceedings initiated 3 months ago. Kevin Foster. 2 judgments totaling $50,000. The silence was deafening. Brandon stared at his family, his face pale. Is this true? It's none of her business, Robert started. Is it true? Brandon's voice cracked. Diane stood up. We were trying to help you. To protect you. By putting your creditors on my wife's house? Brandon stood too, his hands shaking. By using her property to solve your problems? It's not like that, Ashley said weakly. Then what's it like? I asked quietly. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been trying to manipulate me into giving you access to the only asset in this family that isn't drowning in debt. You have no idea what it's like, Diane said, tears in her eyes now. To lose everything. To watch your life fall apart. We just needed help. So you lied to me. You pretended to care about Brandon's future when really you needed my house as collateral. We do care about Brandon, Robert said, but his voice had lost its authority. Brandon turned to them, and I saw something break in his face. Did you even ask yourselves what this would do to my marriage? To my wife? We're family, Diane said desperately. No, Brandon said. Family doesn't con each other. Family doesn't manipulate. Family doesn't lie. He looked at me. I didn't know. I swear to God, Natasha, I didn't know any of this. I studied his face and saw the truth there. The shock. The betrayal. I believe you, I said. Patricia closed her laptop. I think we're done here. Robert stood up, trying to salvage some dignity. You're making a huge mistake. Family is everything. Then you should have acted like it, Brandon said. One by one, they filed out. Ashley crying. Kevin silent and ashamed. Diane begging Brandon to understand. Robert blustering about disrespect. When the door closed, Brandon and I stood in the silence. I'm sorry, he said finally. I'm so sorry. You didn't know. I should have. I should have questioned why they were so obsessed with the house. I should have protected you. I took his hand. You're protecting me now. What do? We change the locks. Legally, I mean. I'm getting a lawyer to draw up a postnuptial agreement that clearly states this house remains my separate property. And your family is never setting foot in here again until they apologize. Really apologize. Brandon nodded. Okay. Are you okay? He looked around the room. Our room. And I saw tears in his eyes. My whole life, I thought they were good people. Struggling, sure, but good. I didn't know they were capable of this. People do desperate things when they're drowning. That doesn't make it right. No, it doesn't. 3 months later, Brandon's family finally sent a letter. Not an apology, but a demand for an apology from me for humiliating them. I threw it away. Brandon started therapy to process the betrayal. I supported him through it, watching him slowly separate his identity from the family that had raised him. Ashley lost her condo. Kevin filed for bankruptcy. Robert and Diane downsized to a small rental. None of them ever acknowledged what they'd tried to do. But here's what they did do. They taught me that ownership isn't just about property. It's about boundaries. It's about knowing your worth and protecting it. My house is still in my name. Just mine. And every time I walk through that door, I remember the day I almost signed it away because someone called it family. The best decision I ever made was saying no. And the second best was marrying a man who, when faced with the truth, chose me over them. Some families are born. Some are built. And some you have to protect yourself from. I learned to tell the difference. And I've never been more grateful for a realtor who knew how to pull up property records.